Hello, please let me see your ticket stubs for the Double-Edged Double Bill, where you get 2 film and or media discussions for the price of 1, which is nothing. Each week, Adam Thomas and Thomas Mariani will come to the table to randomly select the yin and yang of a double feature. One will have 2 good movies, the other 2 bad ones. Both will have to pick a number between 1 and 10 in order to seal their fates for each episode. Let the chaos begin. I am Thomas Mariani.
And I am Adam S. Thomas, Esquire.
And it's time to do our bit and a 1, 2, 3, 4, go, Adam!
Jazz hands! Cha-cha-cha-cha!
Yes, and in case you couldn't tell from that jazzy intro, our topic for this week, in honor of we are doing this on the week of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Oh, fuck.
I love that a movie title just exudes how much they don't give a shit.
I know! Well, here we go again.
It's a reference to the actual band and also how much they don't give a shit. We are doing musicals, which, I don't know, Adam, I'm a pretty big fan of a good musical.
However, am not. It happens to be my least favorite film genre, period.
That's very interesting. I did not know this about you. You see, each episode I discover something new about you, Adam. That's the joy of doing this every week. So
I'm a question mark wrapped inside of an enigma.
Yes, you very much are. And for this event, we are going to discuss, obviously, a good movie and a bad movie. And I have 2 good movies for Adam to pick. And vice versa, Adam has 2 bad movies for me to pick, based within the musical genre. And so, Adam, why don't you go ahead and start? Go ahead and pick a number between 1 and 10 for my 2 good choices.
I'm going to go 7.
All right. At number 5 is a movie very close to my heart, Cabaret, from 1972, which is a Bob Fosse musical starring Liza Minnelli that takes place in Germany around a Nazi uprising. Which isn't relevant at all.
Never seen it.
I'm very curious
seen it.
to see how this goes then. And also at number 2, the classic musical as well, Singing in the Rain.
That I have seen. That is a good movie. I will give you that one. That's a classic.
But let's go ahead and do bad choices, Adam. And it's time for me to pick a number between 1 and 10. And I will go with number 1.
Okay, at number 4, I have the... Fuck, I did this to myself, too. From Justin to Kelly.
Oh, no! No!
Yeah, man. I went off. I went as hard as I could this time. I was like, I'm going hard at the paint.
Starring the 2 winners of... Well, 1 winner and the
one winner
runner-up.
and the runner-up of Season 1 of American Idol.
Oh, my God. This is going to be so bad. What was the other choice?
Blues Brothers 2000.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah.
That's at least more offensive to something I care about, versus I couldn't give less of a shit about American Idol.
Oh, you're about to. You're about to get... Oh, God, I'm dreading it, too. Fuck.
Well, we'll be tap dancing into our double feature in just a moment.
Meine Damen und Herren, Mesdames et Messieurs, Ladies und Gentlemen, Fräulein Sally Bowles!
I'm Sally Bowles.
I'm Brian Roberts.
And I have this strange, mystical, daddish feeling about you. So you're moving right in, okay? Okay? Poor man. He tries to love me. I may have my tiny faults. Does it really matter as long as you're having fun?
Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
Meine Damen und Herren, Mesdames et Messieurs, Ladies and Gentlemen. It is time to discuss our double feature, and joining us is our guest, Fraulein Caitlin Turner. Caitlin, how are you doing?
Well, Tom, what can I say but life is beautiful.
It's a bit mixed. We're talking about a bit more depressing good movie and a super terrible, awful movie as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
This is the first time you've been on the show here. Are you a fan of musicals in general?
I grew up on Disney, so yes.
But had you been familiar with either of the two musicals we were going to discuss tonight?
Yes. I actually watched Cabaret when I was younger. I was probably 10 when I first saw it.
Great time.
Yeah.
Just everything.
I didn't get most of it, but I liked it. And I saw it from Justin Guarini probably when it came out on DVD. God knows I didn't see this one in theaters.
You mean, no one did?
Yeah, I don't think it was only there for like 15 days or something.
Yeah, like a week.
Yeah.
We'll get into all that, but first let's talk about our good film, Cabaret, which was released on February 13th, 1972, directed by Bob Fosse, who is a big director on stage and screen, probably best known as the guy who created a lot of the stuff for the stage production of Chicago, which would later become a film after he passed away. And you can see a lot of that in Cabaret. A lot of the staging, a lot of the way that, especially the Mein Herr number in this really reminds me a lot of like Cell Block Tango, in terms of a lot of the choreography. But in any case, it is a film based on a musical that premiered in 1966, and was also based on both a play called I Am a Camera, and also by the works of Christopher Isherwood, who wrote a lot of based on a true story vaguely stories, including Goodbye to Berlin, which is what was the inspiration for Sally Bowles, the character played by Liza Minnelli here. I'm very curious to see here, because I know Caitlin obviously knew this movie before. I'm a big fan of this movie. Adam, you said this was your first time seeing it. Having seen it, what are your first impressions of Cabaret?
Okay. At first, I'd say within the first, half hour, I'm like, oh, God. I don't know if I could do this, But, man, as it went on, I found myself, putting the phone down and actually paying attention and watching it. It's a really good movie, dude. I mean, honestly, even now, thinking about it, I don't really have many problems with it, which surprises me. Musicals are not my thing, man. But as I was explaining to my wife, this is a movie with musical numbers in it, to me, so I can handle those a little bit better than when, say, from Justin Guarini or, Moulin Rouge or Les Mis, when the actors are singing each other their dialogue. That drives me nuts.
Right, which is interesting because the Cabaret musical, there's a lot more numbers, including when they're not on stage. Aside from the Tomorrow Belongs to Me number that's in here, there are no songs outside of the actual Cabaret. And I've heard some people who are bigger fans of the musical have controversy about that. I actually hadn't seen the musical until I watched a production that was filmed, directed by Sam Mendes, starring Alan Cumming as the MC, probably his most famous Broadway part. And it's interesting because that works still, despite having the musical numbers outside of the Cabaret. But I think it works here really well because it shows the drama of these people living in the tail end of the pre-Nazi era for Germany, and also how the entertainment kind of mirrors that, which I think is genius on Fosse's part. I think it's a great way of recontextualizing a lot of the musical numbers and even the MC character really well. Would you agree with that, Caitlin?
Oh yeah, no, I think they adapted the book / play / musical as well as they possibly could have. And I was surprised with a lot of the stuff they kept in, because Christopher Isherwood, who is the author, was very much ahead of his time. He wrote about a lot of controversial subjects. One of the main storylines in the book version of this was a gay couple, which was something you didn't really hear about being written about in 1938 or 9, whenever it was first published. You didn't see that talked about, really. So it's very interesting to see how much they've kept of that, because even in 1972, a lot of these subjects like abortion, menage a trois, stuff like that, were very controversial.
Yeah, especially the bisexuality of the Brian character, played by Michael York here. You might know as Basil Exposition. Those of you that know.
I was calling him Logan the whole movie. Because of Logan's Run.
Right, yes, there's also that. That whole thing, I think, still really holds up surprisingly well. The fact that he has this sort of sexual naivete, and how Sally kind of respects it and then kind of guides him in a certain way. It's interesting because he's obviously far more book smart, she is obviously far more street smart. And I really love that friendship and then that connection and how that completely dissolves. It's a great way of sort of stringing together this whole story. And especially the chemistry between Liza Minnelli and Michael York is just phenomenal in this movie.
It's this kind of beautiful clusterfuck of a relationship. And it's like, oh, hey, I cheated on you. Oh, I cheated on you too. With the same guy. It's like, what the heck? Okay, then.
We have our fun, but guys, Nazis.
Right? Yeah.
Don't, like, I'm still reeling from that Nazi number, man. That one.
We'll get into that. We'll
Yeah.
get into that shortly. But Adam, you were going to say?
Yeah, no, the thing is, yeah, they had chemistry and all, and maybe because this is my first time viewing it, and I'm at the age I am, but to me, Sally just comes off like just a horrible person. Like, I did not get behind her character at all. I get she was depressed and, failed before she even attempted actress, but just, yeah, man, nope. I did not like her at all. I felt bad for Brian almost the whole movie.
Here's the thing. I don't think she's a horrible person, but I think she is a person with all the complexities that come with it for a woman in her time.
Right. Now, I completely agree with Caitlin in terms of, I love Minnelli's performance here because it really shows off this woman
yes.
who she's clearly naive. She clearly, in terms of just like really dealing with huge issues, like she is oncoming for her. She's very obviously like a young woman who loves the idea of just like being, out there and partying and drinking and just having a fun time. And the movie keeps bringing up things that she tries to just go against. She isn't wanting to confront serious issues at any point. And when she has to near the end of it, she still knows the consequences with the scene where she is confronted by Michael York, where she reveals, like, I had the abortion. Like, she just knows instinctively, like, this is all going to come crashing down. I don't want it to, but I have to face that. It's the first really big adult decision she's made in her life, and it's brutal. And I think that's what really makes it work, is that she's a dimensional character.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was the smartest decision she could have made.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, her and Brian, although they loved each other, it obviously wasn't going to work.
For reasons internal and also external in their environment.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it was also the fact they didn't have the money to take care of a child. I applaud her. I mean, I don't applaud every nuance of the way she handled it, like you should have told Brian and shit like that before, but she made the best decision she could, and good on her, man. It's just a heart-wrenching scene to see her in that bed, trying not to completely break down while he freaks out.
Yeah, Adam!
I don't blame Adam either, but it is one of those things where I think people are a lot more accepting of these kinds of troubles and character flaws. If it's a guy character as well, it seems to come off a lot better to people for some reason.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, most people, I agree with you. I don't.
Oh no, I'm not saying that's the case with you. I'm just saying.
No. I know. I actually
hate Sally.
I'm agreeing with you. No, the reason I don't like it. Look, to be honest, once Maximilian came in the picture, you knew right then and there, like, yeah, she's gonna cheat. Like, she's gonna cheat. She's gonna go after the money. I knew it right away. Now, did I know that Brian was also going to cheat? No. And does that make him a scumbag too? Well, I mean, yeah, it makes him guilty as well. But I mean, obviously, because it was played more from his perspective. But that's all I'm saying. Like, right away, I knew it. Like, there's no way she's not going to.
But did you at least appreciate Minnelli's performance in the part?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, I'm not very well versed in Liza Minnelli, other than like, as God, what's her name? Number 2 in
Lucille 2 on Arrested
Lucille 2, yeah. I know her as Lucille 2. And then one of my favorite Saturday Night Live skits from the last like 10 years is Kristen Wiig as Liza Minnelli trying to turn off a lamp in her apartment.
Oh God, yeah,
it's so funny. Yeah, that's about as well versed in her as I really am, and to the point where I don't know if I ever knew or if I just completely forgot that she was Judy Garland's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this her type of art and performance and stuff is completely out of my wheelhouse. So to see her in this, yeah, dude, she's pretty good, man.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, fun fact, Liza Minnelli actually played Roxy Hart in a Broadway production of Chicago.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all.
It all circles around eventually back to Chicago or Cabaret.
No, that's true. I mean, it's a phenomenal performance from her for all these things that we're saying, but even just on the basic level of a lot of the choreography, a lot of the way that she plays the musical numbers. I love the bit during the money number where they do that knock knock, who's there, hunger, ooh, hunger. I love the way that bit is played comedically, and it really shows that like later on she would do a lot of great comedic parts, even non-musically, like in Arthur, where she played the love interest.
Oh yeah, okay. I
yes.
forgot about Arthur. Yeah.
Right. Or in New York, New York, where she's carrying that movie with Robert De Niro. It's like, this is kind of weird, but we're going to kind of move this along. We've mentioned the Master of Ceremonies in terms of Joel Grey, who would win an Oscar along with Minnelli, along with this movie, interestingly, won 8 Oscars at the time, still the record holder for the most Oscar wins without winning Best Picture, because it lost to some movie called The Godfather.
You're right, like that movie's going to catch on and go anywhere.
Nowhere.
Bullshit.
But what did we think of Joel Grey?
He stole the movie.
Yeah, him and Liza Minnelli, man. Like, honestly, they stole the movie so much. I'm like, wait, who's this character again? Can we go back to them?
Yeah, no, he chewed up every scene he was in. I mean, you couldn't take your eyes off him. And I think that was very smart by them literally opening the movie basically with his face. So it's like you're thrust into, you have to watch this guy.
And it wasn't just his makeup, too. Although the makeup was good, but it was also frightening.
Yeah, it was very creepy, but he just exuded personality and playful charm and everything through every movement and every note that he hit and everything. I really liked him a lot. When I found out Alan Cumming played him on Broadway or whatever, it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Well, it's interesting because like when he picked up the part, he did it a lot more overtly sinister and sexual. What I love about the Joel Grey character here is that he has so much more of like an ambivalent, asexual nature to him overall, and it's just more of like he puts on whatever show he needs to for the sake of entertaining the audience, which initially it's a lot more bawdy, it's a lot more over the top, and as things go along, as things become sort of more consumed by this Nazi culture, he starts digging into that and going into like full-on anti-Semitism and stuff like that just through performance. This movie does such a genius job of really portraying that idea of entertainment really feeds off of the culture, and how, just like, look, entertainment is inherently political, and even if it's something stupid like he's dancing with a monkey, there's inherent political subtext to that really just shows up. I love how they utilize all that. But he's also, as you mentioned, like, exuding so much personality, there's so much fun there, especially at the beginning, and I also love how he's always in the Cabaret Club, and the Cabaret Club looks so convincingly dingy and shitty and small.
Oh, just gross. You know,
and the makeup on the girls looks pretty gross. Let's be real.
You can smell the cigars and the spilled whiskey all over the place and everything. You just smell that through the screen.
Yeah, and I also love how stuff like the orchestra coming up. The orchestra, who is beautiful, coming on. They all sort of have the movements of like a Country Bear Jamboree show.
I beg to differ with him on that. The orchestra being beautiful. I challenge that.
I challenge you, sir.
And it's interesting. Some people have actually interpreted there's the point where you sort of see the editing after Sally reveals that she's pregnant. There's some interesting editing choices where it cuts to like her and the MC together, and it kind of implies through the editing that it might actually be his kid.
Oh, when he grabs her from behind?
Yes.
I didn't really get it to imply that so much as I saw it because he grabbed the tits a little bit, sure. But he grabs everybody's tits in this movie, to be fair. I kind of saw it as that thing where he's like, listen, get rid of the kid for your career. Because he was whispering and just the look on her face. It wasn't one of they were lovers so much to me, but this sinister kind of he's pushing her to get rid of the kid for her chance at stardom.
Yeah, I just assumed it was was it Max's or was it Brian's? That's kind of what I assumed was the was the angle there.
That's the main sort of drive, but I think it also kind of implies that slightly. But then again, that's what I like about the MC character, is that there's a lot you can't interpret off him because of how sort of neutrally they kind of treat him in terms of... He just puts on all these faces. I would like to ask, what is everybody's favorite number? Adam, what was your favorite of the numbers in the film?
The Money song. They were just having so much fun, dude, throwing the coins in each other's pants and down her shirt, and, you know, you could tell they were just having a good time.
And just shaking your titties to the tambourine.
I mean, I do that here. But people throw rocks at me. I don't get it.
Mr. Tambourine Man.
Right. Yeah. But, no, I think that was definitely my favorite, because that was the one number. Well, I mean, obviously, it had to do once she started seeing Max. You know, obviously he had money. But that one felt like the most fun, I guess. Where most of the other numbers had just such a really depressing underlying subtext to them, where that one was just... That one didn't bum me out. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
What about you, Caitlin?
I really liked Money, Money, Money. I also liked Two Ladies. Cabaret, of course, is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But honestly, kind of the one that, even more than Cabaret or any of the others, sticks with me, even though part of me also hates it because of what it is. It's Tomorrow Belongs to Me. I've never seen something quite shot so well with so little happening to portray what's going on.
Right. This is, of course, the big Nazi number that you were referring to earlier, and it's a phenomenal piece of filmmaking, just because it really just shows the escalating sort of nationalism, especially at what is supposed to be a simple, fine sort of picnic outdoors, and the starkness of seeing this giant sort of anthem pop up, this, you know, awful, brazen sort of chant that rises throughout that entire crowd. It's terrifying. It's horrific.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just chilling to the bone.
Well, also there's this war, like, it's implied he's a war veteran, sitting at one of the picnic tables. He doesn't get up, and he just has this look on his face, like he knows what's about to happen. And he's just like, oh, fuck, here we go again. Kind of see it written on his face.
Right, and there's also sort of that, in that look of his face, just like a desire to try and ignore it, to try and, like, hopefully this will go past, like, hopefully this isn't a thing, which is a recurring motif they do with a lot of songs in the musical version of Cabaret, but I love that they just have it with a look like that, or that great line of still think you can control them. My favorite moment probably in the whole movie. And just the look like, I don't know, and then keeps going. It's a really darkly comedic, but just like brutally satiric moment in there. And the fact that it's not just like the old guard or, you know, the obvious sort of like Nazi youth, but it's like young kids and stuff like that just rising up with this nationalism. It's horrific. It's a bit, you know, uncomfortable right now, maybe.
Oh, yeah, because like initially when I saw it, like I said, I was about 10 years old. My father was watching it on TV, and I just watched it with him. And I was confused, because I thought, oh, hey, it's a Boy Scout singing. And I didn't quite understand it until my father explained it to me. And I'm like, oh dear. And then I didn't understand it even further until I got older.
Right.
But, yeah, like, if you don't know what that uniform means and stuff... Especially not until later, until he does the salute. It can be disarming. It's like, oh, this is just people banding together, but then it's like the salute, then it's like the full uniform, and then it's like, well, fuck.
And it helps that it's the only one outside of the Cabaret, so it really just like even
really
stands out more starkly.
Difference.
Yes.
It's the only one with like the really bright lights, the non-painted faces. It's this number that looks so beautiful, but it's so haunting, and it honestly, just the way it's all filmed and everything else, it's the one that left the most mark on me.
Both of these are great, but I would personally say a favorite of mine is, interestingly, it was a song that wasn't in the original show. It's been adapted since into the show, but it was an existing song that Liza Minnelli had sung previously, and she wanted to have put into the show, the Maybe This Time I'll Be Lucky number, which I think just portrays that sort of naivete of the Sally character in a beautiful, swelling fashion, and just the fact that it's done to a very dingy crowd that isn't really giving a shit. Because especially a big thing with Liza Minnelli in the part was that the original author did say that he thought Liza Minnelli was a bit too talented to play the part of Sally Bull, and that a big thing about her was more that she wasn't that talented, and that was part of sort of the tragedy. But I think that kind of works in even more tragic way here. That Sally completely doubts herself all the time, doesn't think she'll ever be much of an actress, but she's Liza Minnelli, who can sing wonderfully, but still just, like, psychologically keeps herself inside of the cabaret. That's all that she really thinks she can achieve. And that's why that makes the cabaret number even more tragic, because she's belting it out for a crowd of Nazis who's not going to give a shit. That's so brutally sad, but in such an engaging, engrossing way. That's what I think works about this movie.
And will likely kill her friend.
Probably. most likely. Which I will say, we should probably talk about the fact that there's the whole subplot with the sort of Fraulein Schneider character and Fritz. I will say, if there's one thing that maybe doesn't hold up progressively in terms of a lot of the sexual politics of the movie, and it's something I completely forgot about until I watched this again, is the whole forcing on her thing. I completely forgot that was a thing. And that's not great.
No, that's pretty rough. And I mean, honestly, though, another thing too, I just don't know that whole subplot was necessary for the most part, anyways. Like their whole storyline, I get, to show that she's Jewish and that he's also a Jew in hiding and everything. But I mean, was it necessary to further the story?
I think it's very necessary because if you think about it, the way they react to her is a way that really shows another way, like how the anti-Semitism and the Nazi Party are growing stronger in Germany. Because before, she's a wealthy Jewish heiress, and people aren't going to mess with her. But eventually, they do, and it's like, that's how strong these people are getting, where they're even going to mess with the wealthy if you are Jewish. And I think while it's not the most important thing, I do think it's one of the ways that markedly show how strong the Nazi regime is growing outside of the cabaret.
It's more vital world building than it is a great sort of character arc, we'll just say. I think
definitely.
That's where I think I agree it does work, especially when you have the whole thing in between the number where you have the MC and all the other girls dancing and then getting the helmets on that's cut in between the whole thing of her dog getting killed. I think really does a great job building up the fact that most people don't think the Nazis at this point are going to be a big deal. And then that happens, and it's just like, oh, it's fine, nothing's going to happen, and something serious like this is going on. And it just shows that they didn't even realize how bad this was and oncoming. And it's moments like that, or I also love it's a non-musical moment entirely, but the whole thing where Brian walks in with Fritz to do another English lesson, and the people who are running the hotel or the apartment are talking about the whole Jewish conspiracy thing, hits home so well. And how it's just, and sort of the awkward pause, and I wish the Kaiser was back in power. That's where we kind of missed that era, and it's like, oh, fuck. This just shows it on a groundswell level. I think that's why the Fritz and...
People don't actually realize sometimes just how remarkably fast the Nazi regime basically came into power through propaganda and stuff like that, and the devastation left behind after World War One.
Yes.
And this movie, I think, shows it well, because literally Fritz and Natalia aren't together very long before her dog is killed. And that, to me, really shows just how strong they're getting so quickly.
It's a fun show, guys. We talk about fun things.
Yeah, we're going to talk about dogs dying, and now I need to watch John Wick.
We'll talk about the musical clone of dogs dying shortly. But before we go too far, I do also want to mention, I think we've been talking about, I think, Bob Fosse's direction in terms of a lot of the musical numbers and stuff, but I really do have to praise just some of the really haunting visuals of the movie, particularly the final shot, for example. I think just the way how it literally shows this big musical venue is just reflecting the audience, stuff like that, or just the way he makes, despite the fact that the place is smaller and dingy, feel longer, like the whole phone conversation that Brian and Sally have. It shows so much depth of the club without really actually revealing a huge set, because they probably didn't have it. Stuff like that. Are there any other moments of the direction that really are noteworthy to you guys?
Well, I mean, we've talked about that Tomorrow Belongs to Me scene. That right there. Holy crap. But like you said, the ending scene where, like, you haven't really seen Nazis in the audience and they've actually been laughed out at points. But now, sitting comfortably, being treated as patrons. And it's like, dang. That hurts. Mm-hmm. And that is haunting to see.
I really liked the intercutting. So like when the older gentleman was being assaulted, when it was everything else, that talk about watching that going, oh, good God. But they did that a couple times, and I really liked the way they made that work, where they would do like the dual montages. This isn't my genre per se, and today was my first time watching it. Literally, it went off about a half hour before we started recording. So it's still kind of all fresh for me.
Would you say it's one that you would recommend to people who maybe aren't usually musical fans?
Oh yeah, no, I'll rewatch it again myself. Because I know there's things in there that I've missed, that there's subtext that I didn't pick up on the first time. There's things that I would like to maybe watch again when I don't have a toddler throwing My Little Pony toys in my face, stuff like that.
I'm trying to picture that. Serious Nazi business. Ponies!
Yeah, it was happening, too. Yeah, no, I would definitely recommend this to somebody who's not into musicals. So like I said, the musical thing, I'm probably I'm sure there's other people that do it, but for me, this is a movie that happens to have musical numbers in it. I for some reason, don't classify this as strictly a musical.
Well, it's a different type of musical. There's the generally two types. Mm. There's even a term for it. I'm trying to think real quick. I think it's like gases or something like that?
Diegetic.
Diegetic, that's it. Basically, that's the type of musical like this is, where it's just the numbers in between and stuff like that. Generally, like, Disney musicals even sometimes get like that, for a good example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's a type of musical a lot of people like, while others can also like the others. It's really an interesting difference, but they're both firmly in the musical category, I think. Oh, but I did want to praise one thing about the film real quick. Liza Minnelli, this was actually her first singing role in film. And I'm like, yeah, you knocked it out the park.
Mm-hmm. Because she really makes the music feel natural when she's on the stage. And once again, that feeds into such a perfect tragedy about her character in the movie that's completely different from the musical. Whereas
her facial expressions are perfection, in all honesty. They are everything.
And plus, she's very charming when she just comes up just generally in person, where she's like, I have my faults. But come on. And then she's just like, just
you have a cigarette, darling.
Going for the gin, the whole thing where she goes under the pass and she starts screaming, stuff like that. It's interesting. She kind of feels like a very early deconstruction of the trope we would later call the manic pixie dream girl, because she sweeps into Brian's life. She's just like, look at all, I'm weird and whimsical and fun, and I'm fun at parties. Don't you want to like just hang out with me? And they do hang out, and they do have fun together. And then just like, oh wait, that fun's kind of fleeting when you got to make really fucking adult decisions, and that really fucking hurts. And I think it's a movie that's interestingly about not just the loss of innocence of these characters, but how that mirrors the country in of itself, with the fact that there's like this Nazi uprising's coming. It works as both like a historical record and a metaphor for these characters kind of growing up and getting out of this particular period of their lives.
Oh yeah, I fully agree there. And she just, honestly, her and the MC, man, so dang good. I can't say it enough.
Well, that might be a good way to just go into final thoughts on Cabaret, Caitlin.
Honestly, this is a movie for everyone, especially in today's political climate. It hits hard just seeing that Tomorrow Belongs to Me number. Great character acting, great numbers, great shooting. The costumes are also great. It's an A+ movie. Check it out.
Adam?
I would say this movie is almost for everyone except for maybe young children.
Oh, come on, let them join me and my 10-year-old first viewing.
Ages 11 and up, guys.
Yeah, right. 11 and up. I don't want to explain. I don't know if I want to explain Nazism to like a 5-year-old yet.
Oh God.
But like I said, I already said, ad nauseum, this is not my genre. But I thoroughly did enjoy the movie. I really appreciated this film. I thought it was great especially for someone who wouldn't never choose to watch something like this. That it has to be chosen for them by his dickhead co-host. This was a pleasant surprise. This is the first one that's been picked on the show that I haven't seen that I walked out really enjoying. I mean, I would throw maybe Hurricane Heist in there too, but
equal level films.
equal level in every way, especially subtext. I just thought, this was a really good movie. It's very enjoyable. It just filled with fantastic performances, depressing imagery. It's a good movie. And like Caitlin alluded to earlier, a lot of hot button, issues that, frankly, I'm surprised they even pulled off in 1972 when they made this.
Yeah, and This was written, like the original material, the book was written in 1938, 39, so like, dang.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yes, it's not one of those great sort of 70s era movies that has the grime and the dirt, and despite the fact that it has musical numbers, it still just really keeps that consistent kind of dirtiness and realism and groundedness. But in a way that, like we've all mentioned, it really transcends not just the time period this is set in, but also the time it was made, and despite maybe a few occasional problems with that, it still just really holds up wonderfully. It's a favorite musical of mine, and I hope more people see it. But speaking of things that are cultural relics, but maybe not have stood the test of time, it's time to talk about...
Speaking of dickhead co-hosts, Adam.
Yes,
he chose this fucking thing.
Look, we're both guilty here. This is a murder-suicide that you jumped in on, Caitlin. From Justin to Kelly.
This summer,
come with us to Miami. It's not my scene.
Music will bring two strangers together.
Hey, they go from the beach.
And nothing can come between them.
I'm gonna ask her out again.
Except all their friends.
So what does a girl need to do to get you?
There are a million hot girls here, and you're still talking about the one girl who blew you off.
Kelly Clarkson.
I should take a chance.
Justin Guarini.
This girl is special.
In the musical event of the summer. From Justin to Kelly.
Yeah. Starring my old boy JG.
For those of you who might not remember,
I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Right. American Idol started in 2002, and it was, of course, the big singing, competing reality show that became synonymous with the rise of reality television in the early 2000s. And the first winner was, of course, Kelly Clarkson, who has gone on to have a career as a pop musician, and Justin Guarini was the runner-up, and it was decided right after they were the two highest possible people on that first season for them to be contractually obligated to star in a feature film called From Justin to Kelly, which would come out on June 20th, 2003. And it's almost as if not only the stars, but also the movie itself really realizes it's a contractual obligation and wants to get done fast.
Adam spoke about not liking Sally, right? And just liking her character and stuff. That's how I felt about a particular character in this film. I was ready to stab somebody.
All of them?
Specify, because I was going to say.
No. There was one worse than the rest, and that's the Alexa, the blonde one. The Southern Belle blonde bimbo. She was the ultra bitch in this.
I can't believe you got that emotionally invested in this.
No, it's because I knew girls like her growing up in high school. It's the worst type of person to exist.
I wanted to stab all of them. Now, I love that Justin Guarini and his hip friend have their nerd friend with them. Which, by the way, Justin Guarini looks way much more like the nerd friend than that guy ever does.
Oh, yeah. No. The nerd friend is actually a pretty famous, TV star. His name's, Brian D. something. I can't remember. But he plays Dr. Jimmy Palmer on NCIS.
Yeah, well, Justin Guarini plays the cock rocker in the Dr. Pepper commercials. So,
That's, good point, Adam. Clearly,
Right.
the most famous person in this cast.
right, exactly.
I guess a brief plot synopsis.
Fuck. Good luck.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, actually. It's just like Kelly is this girl who works as a bartender / singer at her local bar, where she's stalked by some creepy dude with a cowboy hat named Luke. And her friends are like, hey, you're such a stick in the mud. Let's go to Miami for spring break. I don't know. Come on. Okay. And then credit sequence starts. This is all in like the first 3 minutes of the movie. Once again,
Not even. And I mean, literally, it's that easy, too.
Yeah,
Not
and
even
not only
outside.
that, it starts with like the worst cover of Vacation you've ever heard, and I'm like wincing during the entire thing.
Yeah, because the musical numbers that are written for the movie, or more likely thrown from out of like some composer's trash can onto the screen, are pretty forgettable and terrible, but the covers are garbage. Like there's that, and there's the cover of That's the Way I Like It. At the end.
Oh,
They take good songs and make them just garbage. It just overproduced early 2000s pop song garbage.
I'll tell you what, though, the random choreography, man, those guys were all spot on with each other, weren't they? On the beach.
the choreography was
That's
the
what I took
craziest
away from
thing.
it.
So was the costume designing. At least with musicals, one of the things you look forward to is the choreography and the costumes, and I'm like, I could not be more.
To be
bored.
fair, though, they were on spring break in Florida.
That's no excuse. They could have at least gotten prettier bathing suits, because those were like cheap $5 ones you get from Walmart.
Once again, Caitlin, this was clearly a movie done by contractual obligation of like, fuck it, go, let's get these here, let's get whatever
Right,
we have.
exactly.
Let's
Let's get this out. Let's make as much money on these kids as we can.
before they completely lose interest, so we'll release it a year after the end of the season where they won the fucking show. Which is a shame, because if this had been successful, we would have gotten what I would have preferred, which was From Ruben to Clay.
Yes.
Yes,
I
that would have been the one.
Would have far preferred a shot-for-shot remake with Ruben Studdard and Clay Aiken.
Yeah.
But anyway...
The postman always rings Bo Bice.
That's true. But anyway, so this movie, basically, those three go off on vacation to Miami. They run into Justin and his crew, which includes the nerd guy, and dude who has some kind of business doing whipped cream bikini contest with
Fuck
Justin.
that guy. Just let me punch a couple people in this
He likes
film.
to
Let me
rap.
have some fun. Let me have
Yes.
some fun punching.
And they meet on the beach, and I love that they have a whole dumb musical number of Justin and Kelly getting together, and they're singing about, oh, girl, you're so hot. Oh, man, you're so hot. And then when they get up to the room, they're like, hey, Kelly, that guy was really hitting on you. No, he wasn't. He sang a
I
whole
know.
song to you, motherfucker.
I know, they're like grinding on each other and everything.
I do find, what I do find funny is that the nerd guy was like the best male singer in this. I find that so hilarious.
Don't you dare throw shade at Guarini. Don't you dare. He sang his heart out.
I mean, clearly, but don't you also love a musical romantic movie where the couple are just like simmering with complete lack of chemistry? Isn't that just what you want out of a
Yes,
movie like
absolutely.
this?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, it's not necessarily a we hate each other chemistry, but more of like two people who are embarrassed of themselves, and they're like, look, we have to get through this, we don't like this, but please, we have to make this work somehow.
Well, that's actually not the truth, because Justin really wanted to do this. It was Kelly who didn't. She was actually praying, because she talked about this in an interview. She started praying that she would actually not win American Idol, because she had no interest in acting. Justin did. She did not, and she made herself sick over it. And when she won, she started begging the producer and creators of American Idol to let her out of this contract and free her from this hell, and they did not.
It was obvious that I don't even think those two like each other. It's not even that they have bad chemistry. You could tell it's like they just don't like each other. And they obviously, like, I don't think he might want to be an actor, sure, but he didn't want to do this fucking movie. Like, this whole movie's just a fucking mess. It's just It's awful.
But not really an engaging mess at all. That's the biggest tragedy of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very much a fart in the wind, where, much like in theaters, it just, like, it came out, it was briefly unpleasant, and then left. And that's pretty much how it's also working in our memories, I think, at this point.
I'll forget about this movie in a month. I'm going to forget everything that happened in this movie. I'm going to forget everything about it.
Yeah.
But how can you forget about the scintillating moments of, like, them professing their love for each other on a boat, not staring at each other at all?
Yeah.
What I find hilarious is they have some people who could really sing and dance in this movie, and, like, some of the people who got the most singing parts couldn't really sing, because they've got that Anika Noni Rose, who eventually becomes Tiana from Princess and the Frog.
And one of the Dream Girls in the Dream Girls movie.
Yeah, she got pipes. And you've got, like, Robert Hoffman, who is a well-known dancer. Like, he was the star in Step Up 2, the male star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
But they've also got one of the Pussycat Dolls in here, fucking Jessica Suda.
Right.
And then they've got this girl playing Alexa, Catherine something. I can't even remember her last name. And she cannot sing worth a lick. And her song, I'm Gonna Wish Upon a Star, is
God.
the worst
in
this damn movie. And I wanted to rip off my ear.
That's really the moment where you've hit rock bottom, is really that. I will agree, that is the worst song of the whole movie, and all of them are bad. But that one is just really the bottom level, because we're doing this song that's essentially promoting the fact that this girl just likes to cause chaos because she wants to be the center of attention. What a wonderful celebrating song for this awesome character that we all love.
I could have at least stood it, basically, if she could sing. But her singing during that entire number is like, you know, when you've got a 5-year-old child belting out a Disney song into one of those fake microphones that echo and it sounds like shit?
Yeah.
About 10 times worse than that.
I know, dude, for real. Like, on a scale of 1 to Guarini, she's easily a 2.
That's very true.
Really like Guarini. And I just think it's because you like the last name.
He's my olive-colored angel.
It's mostly the Dr. Pepper commercials, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Or is it the Sideshow Bob hair, which I remember that was a recurring gag throughout that first season. I don't know, but I remember that was a recurring gag while the first season of that show, and they literally have it in the movie, just like, remember that?
That's his look. He's quirky.
I love the fact that the studios were arguing with the theaters about, like, Fox wanted to release this only like 6 weeks after it came out in theaters on DVD and VHS, and theaters were like, no, you can't do that because we want to make as much money as we can. And then the movie literally lasted even less than 6 weeks in theaters.
I know.
So they just kept the same date.
It didn't even last. What is it, from opening day? It was on home video in 29 days.
Yes. So
less
than a month.
It took less than a month from opening day for you to be able to buy it in the store.
It's trying to be like one of those Elvis movies, one of those like beach movies especially.
Yeah.
That would have people that were hit teen idols at the time, to try to like recapture that. But why? Who wanted to recapture that?
I know, right, that's what I'm saying. And the thing is, those older movies, those people who would be in it, were there for the cameos or whatever, were established like stars. People knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking who gives a shit about the runner-up from American Idol? Who's gonna go see a movie? I mean, I did because it's Justin Guarini. But
Adam saw it all 29 days. It was still in theaters.
Absolutely, I'm responsible for 4 million of the 5. But who? I mean, seriously, you're banking on that. Nobody gives a shit. And it's so obvious, like just the pure lack of chemistry. You can even tell in the trailer. Kelly Clarkson just so doesn't want to be there. It's so obvious. She just doesn't want to be part of this.
And her character is such a wet blanket the whole movie.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
She is awful. She is an awful character.
Most of them are like mutually terrible. The only person, honestly, I would really say I felt like, man, you really should get the hell out of here because you do have talent, is Anika Noni Rose. Like, watching
Yes.
this the whole time, it's like, you are clearly tied down to such terrible songs, and a weird subplot, too, of like, oh, I'm gonna be with this waiter guy, and we're gonna go to a secret club. Oh, man, you made me lose my job, and I got a different job anyway right afterward, and now I'm
Right.
sorry, let's
So
make
we're
up.
good. Right.
Yeah.
She had Zoe Saldana from Crossroads syndrome written all over her.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
accurate.
yeah.
We're like, why are you in this? Why the fuck are you in this movie? Like Taryn Manning in Crossroads. All right, cool. That's the blonde girl in this one. You get it. They belong there. Zoe Saldana. You're like, oh no.
At least Taryn Manning was Pennsatucky later. What the fuck is this lady done?
She did like a bunch of like bullshit CW shows.
Oh, so she's a big star then.
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't star in a Dr. Pepper commercial either. But
No,
you all know who did.
Now I'm just picturing Adam just
Yeah.
in the theater setting, just renting out the entire theater to watch this movie.
Oh, loving it
Dr.
too.
With the Dr. Pepper sitting next to him in every seat,
Yeah.
just a can of it.
No. Dr. Pepper and all my waifu pillows.
Just gotten his hair done to look just like Justin and everything. It was perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Dr. Pepper waifu pillows. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've mentioned the nerd character.
Yeah.
We really have to go into how awful all of the nerdy references are.
Oh,
And-
God,
So
yeah.
forced. And then the guy is obviously not a nerd.
But Adam, he has a six-pack, and he looks really clean, doesn't have any acne scars or anything, and he totally has a great voice. But he's got glasses, and he wears zinc on his nose. He's a fucking dork.
And like a safari hat or whatever those are called.
And his whole subplot trying to find some, like, this person that he met online. And Caitlin, I know you and I have had online relationships. Don't you
Yes.
just always immediately get attracted to somebody by their webpage?
By their webpage, you could click on their heads.
It's magical. And what were their stupid usernames? Like, PicardFan69 or whatever the fuck it was. And they met in the Xena chat room.
In the sea.
And also a credit to a joke that is like has multiple layers of terrible now in context of progression of time, where he goes over and he looks at a rotary phone and he's like, how can I log on? There aren't even buttons on this thing. That's a joke so bad that technology has made it doubly bad.
How do I log on to a rotary phone? So, you guys brought the mentally handicapped, nerd with you. I mean, that is so offensive on so many levels.
There's like this one scene where he's supposed to be tanning and he gets sunburned. But this is not a sunburn I've ever seen before. This is not, I'm a lobster. This is still, hey, I look pretty damn good with my clothes off. I'm like, no, this is not possible.
Yeah.
No.
Now I'm getting angry at the movie. I'm getting angry.
It's Caitlin just rubbing off on you.
Listen,
on.
I've had Wish Upon a Star stuck in my head for 3 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna go listen to the isolated Guarini part of that song real quick. I'm gonna mute you guys.
There wasn't any Guarini in that one.
Well, I'm gonna find a version.
The hidden isolated track on the DVD that's just Guarini. That isolated track also just has Justin doing all the Foley and all the other people's voices, and it's just Guarini doing everything.
How magical would that be?
He would buy every copy.
I'm trying to finance it right now.
Probably don't have to pay him much.
Exactly.
Also, to top it off, the nerd character, he wears these Hawaiian shirts. But even worse than that, he's got the full-length sleeve white shirt underneath it. And this isn't a thin top. This is a regular top. And I'm like, there is no one in Florida gonna wear that. No one.
But then again, there's also no one in Florida who's gonna encounter somebody's stalker and be like, you know what? Let's have a hoverboat chase. Which
And
also
get pissed
randomly
at her
happens.
when she's worried about him, even though he just got in an accident.
That is the one kind of funny bad scene where the guy has a concussion and blood coming down, and Kelly's like, "Oh my god, no! This guy has some sort of horrible injury," and Justin's like, "I guess she's into him now. He's bleeding. Oh, I lost her. The one that got away."
The cowboy guy, the stalker, does not know how to take a hint.
Well, he's a stalker, so no. He doesn't.
True. But I mean, even worse than that, like, her friend, Alexa, fuck you, bitch, calls him to come down to Fort Lauderdale, and then he force tongues her, and I'm like, ugh. God, this is so rapey.
It's another one of these movies where people are clearly, like, doing things they don't want to do, but people see it from afar and immediately, like, I know the entire situation right here and now. Everything's over. There's that. There's also the scene at the bar where he ends up kissing the Alexa character as well. It's just so much of people, that stupid bullshit misunderstanding Three's Company shit throughout this entire movie.
Oh, yeah. It's just so painfully bad. And the worst part that kills me the most is Tom broke some devastating news to me a few days ago, that the person who wrote this is the same woman who wrote Spice World. And I died inside.
Caitlin is a big defender of Spice World.
I love Spice World. It's
the best. I can't say I'm that really surprised. So my wife loves that movie too.
It's so much fun because, like, the problem with that one is
everything's the problem with that movie.
I will fight you.
Fair enough.
I will pour your Dr. Pepper down the drain and shred your Dr. Pepper wife with pillows.
I'll say this.
I'll call my boy JG. He's got a lifetime supply.
Guys, I gotta just separate these two for a second. I'll say this much. I'm not a fan of Spice World either, but I will give it this much. It feels more authentic to the sort of tribute to the Beatles movies of the 60s than this is to the beach movies of the 50s.
I agree with that.
Plus, Spice World was just allowed to just go insane. It was never taking itself seriously. This one tries to take itself seriously, and it is painful.
That's true. There's not a single bit of authentic charm or bit of, like, winking that would, make this maybe tolerable. But yeah, so let's wrap this up. We talked way more than I expected about from Justin DeKelly. Go ahead, Adam, start off your final thoughts on From Justin DeKelly.
Well, first of all, it should just be called Justin. But it's a terrible film. I mean, this movie is just awful. I say almost every episode that, okay, this is the worst one we've watched yet. This is the worst one I've watched yet for this show. I mean, this, Theodore Rex, and probably Battlefield Earth are the top three bad ones, but this is just atrocious. I wouldn't ever... I could show Theodore Rex to somebody for, like, dude, you gotta see this. It's so bad. It's so funny. It's so bad. This, I wouldn't even want to wish upon my worst enemy. Like, it would just be cruel and unusual punishment. This is just... It's pure, just awful, awful shit. And I can't recommend this to anybody alive or dead. Nobody should see this movie.
Well, such words of praise. Caitlin, what are your final thoughts on From Justin DeKelly?
Fuck Alexa. Fuck this movie. Fuck Alexa again. Fuck Wish Upon a Star. Get out of my head, please, God. The singing's atrocious. Also, there's a reason Justin lost to Kelly. He's not that good a singer.
You take that back.
Never!
Well, before we have a war start, I will butt in with my final thoughts here. From Justin DeKelly is garbage. So thank you for coming on to our episode all about the musicals. You heard us sing praise and not so much praise. We have to get to our feedback, of course, which we asked all of you via the Double Edge Double Bill Facebook page and Twitter account about your favorite and least favorite musicals. Don Chambers says Blues Brothers for favorite, Grease for least favorite. Yeah, I mean, Blues Brothers is underrated in terms of being a musical, in a lot of ways. And Grease, I do feel, is overrated, and also, that's a movie with a terrible abortion subplot. Watch Cabaret instead.
Yep. I love Blues Brothers. That's one of my all-time favorites, movies, period. But yeah, I've never gotten to Grease, but I have that horrible, like, hate for John Travolta, so.
Look, Adam, I can never beat Justin, okay? I can't. I just can't.
I'll try if you want, but that's so weird.
Next, Scott Crawford says, my favorite would have to be Cannibal the Musical, directed by Trey Parker and Matt Stone. My favorite song from Cannibal would have to be the Trapper Song. That one's fun. I do quite enjoy the low-budget charm of Cannibal the Musical.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you want to see where Trey Parker and Matt Stone really came from, it's all there.
Heather Thomas has this to say, Rocky Horror Picture Show for favorite, least favorite across the universe. I wish it was cooler to get this movie, but I'm not, and I don't. Lol. No, it's not good.
It's not.
It's really not.
It's really not.
When it came out, though, man, there were people that championed that fucking movie.
Yeah. Rocky Horror Picture Show, though, is fun. And
Rocky Horror Picture Show is great.
And you really can't beat Tim Curry in a corset and fishnet stockings and heels.
I mean, it's not easy having a good time. Not at all. But yeah, Across the Universe is garbage, though. Aside from the one moment I like is kind of the Eddie Izzard Mr. Kite thing, because it was just Eddie Izzard kind of drunkenly singing the song. But otherwise,
there was some good visuals in it too.
Because it's Julie Taymor, who's a very talented visual stylist.
Yeah.
But in that same way, it's kind of like her. Speaking of musicals, her Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, where it's just like, oh man, many weird visuals, terrible songs. What does this mean at all? I'm not sure.
God.
Rachel Belwar has this to say, favorites, Fiddler on the Roof, West Side Story, not a fan of Music Man. Cabaret, though, and Bob Fosse in general, is excellent. Yeah, Fiddler on the Roof and West Side Story are favorites of mine. Music Man is a great example of like a 60s musical in terms of it just is super long, and there are some good songs in there, but it stretches on forever. And you're like, why is this 2.5 hours long? Oh, wait, because we have to fit in 50 musical numbers. That's why.
Yeah, I saw West Side Story in school. Fiddler on the Roof, I don't know if I've ever seen it. I know a lot of the songs from it, just from other things, but no, I've never seen Music Man.
You've seen the Topol starring sequel Flash Gordon, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen that. I didn't really care for West Side Story too much, personally. I found it annoying, but, you know, that's me.
But there's a place for us somewhere, Adam. Somewhere.
God.
Brian Kane has this to say, I will never understand why anyone likes Repo the Genetic Opera. Its idea of being a musical where everyone just kind of speaks sing-songy with no structure or unifying bar scale.
Fight me. I will fight you in the streets over this one.
I think that's a fun movie.
It's a great movie, has some great numbers, and it had a role where I actually liked Paris Hilton.
Yeah, I think it's just fun. I mean, is it mind-blowing and the songs good? Not, I mean, let's be honest, not really.
I love it.
But it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, I get that style isn't for everybody, though, but I do enjoy it in Repo the Genetic Opera. I think that despite the fact that it's like everybody is sort of like singing throughout, that's more of the style of an opera, as it were, because that's literally what that is more the case. But, I mean, at the same time, there are other movies I like that have that similar style. Umbrellas of Cherbourg is a movie that I recently discovered and is great and has a similar style to it. That isn't for everybody. I do get that.
Yeah, I do get that, but I love the shit out of that movie and the other musicals he's done.
Ooh, those I did not like. The Devil's Carnival movies. But,
I enjoyed them. I enjoyed quite a few numbers of the Devil's Carnival. I have not seen the Alleluia one, the second one in that series, but...
Stephen D. at WaitingFTH on Twitter has this to say, Funny Face. It's the only musical I ever bought the soundtrack to. That's one I haven't seen. I've been curious.
I've never even heard of that.
It's an Audrey Hepburn starring musical.
Oh.
I've seen it. It's fun.
Okay.
Is it a fun knee face?
So anyway, we have more feedback to read. Christian Alvarez has this to say about our Friday the 13th episode, which was our last episode. Speaking of Friday the 13th, have you heard about the Tommy Jarvis tape Easter eggs from the video game of Friday the 13th? I thought it was an interesting way of building a bridge through the Tommy trilogy and also a bit beyond that. And yeah, I didn't know about this because I didn't play the Friday the 13th video game. And he linked to the YouTube clip of all the tapes together, and that's a great audio drama of just like connecting the dots. It's fan fiction, but actually pretty good fan fiction.
Yeah, it was really well done. I found them in game because I used to play it a lot. I don't play it anymore, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I'm very much a fan of the video game and very sad about what it's going through right
Yes.
now.
I think right around the time we recorded that episode, it got hit with more of the sort of legal battles that are going on, and now they're not producing anything else because of the whole Victor Miller lawsuit that's going
Yeah.
Right.
They
Which
legally
is
can't
such
do
a
anything
shame
else.
because they had quite a bit planned left, and they can't even deliver the Kickstarter promises now because they've been hit with the kind of cease and desist thing. But yeah, no, what they have in that game is excellent. All the Easter eggs and stuff like that, a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
And would you say that the Friday the 13th franchise is a favorite of yours, Caitlin?
It holds a special place in my heart. I can't really say it's a favorite simply because you have such a mixture of the good ones and the bad ones. But yeah, like, you can't really talk horror without at least paying homage to Friday the 13th and what it did to the genre in general.
Definitely. Stephen D has this to say also about our Friday the 13th episode. Accidentally started listening to the Friday the 13th episode early. We start early for Friday the 13th on the side of the globe. Hopefully a coincidence, not an omen. Hopefully not. Just look around every corner, Stephen. You don't know what's going to happen. Especially if you're walking in the woods. And then Brian Kane has this to say about, we recently reposted our Rundown episode in honor of Skyscraper coming out. And he says, the Rundown is unironically a modern action vehicle classic.
Is it though? It's fun. It's a good
fun.
action movie. It's a fun action movie. I'll give him that.
It's one of the better wrestler starring vehicles from WWE.
Yeah, that's not saying anything.
Thank you for all of you who shared the feedback. Before we go, we want to thank a few people. Thanks to Chris Oliver for the music used on our show. Listen to more of his music at chrisoliver.bandcamp.com. Also, thanks to Emily Scarda for the art for our podcast. She accepts commissions at fiverr.com/EE-Scarda. And we also want to thank Caitlin Turner for coming on this evening. Caitlin, do you have anything to plug while you're here?
Lostinaseaofstories.wordpress.com. Basically, I talk about books.
Yes. And she writes lovely stuff over there. And of course, you can find me and Adam over on Twitter, obviously at DEDBpod for the show, on Facebook or Twitter, and also doubleedgeddoublebill@gmail.com if you want to email us anything. But our own individual accounts are at NotTheWho'sTommy on Twitter, and what's yours, Adam?
Malekith fan 6969.
Yeah, own it. Own it, motherfucker. It's pretty great. Also, we want to recommend you all go out and subscribe to us on iTunes if you like the show, and please rate and review us. It really gives the show more visibility if you do that. Gets us more attention. We would really appreciate it.
Yes, I agree. I would really appreciate all of those things.
Yes, we all concur on that. And on that note, we gotta saunter our way out of this episode. Good night, everybody.
Jazz hands.
Night.